This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, all. Shall we start the session? Okay. So today's topic is what is today's topic? Evaluation of epiphora. So what is epiphora? And what is the difference between lacrimation and epiphora? Please don't give your attendance in the chat box. If you give your attendance, I'll mark them as absent. Every class I am telling you, don't give your attendance in the chat box. If you give, I'll mark absent to them. So what is the difference between epiphora and lacrimation? Both are the causes of watering eye. Okay, so watering eye means either it can be epiphora or lacrimation. What is the difference between epiphora and lacrimation? So once there will be tear production and drainage of the tear, both will be there, right? Normally the tears are produced and the tears are drained into the nasal cavity to the lacrimal punctum, right? So what is epiphora? The excretion is not correct. That is, there is some problem in the drainage of the tears, but the tear production is normal. Normal quantity of tear is produced, but there is defect in the drainage of the tears. Then it is called as epiphora, and the vice versa is the lacrimation. Here, the production is excessive, but drainage is normal. Then it is called as lacrimation. If there is any problem in the drainage with normal tear production, then it is called as epiphora. There is defect in the drainage of the tears. Then it is called as epiphora. Okay. It is overflowing of tears due to some defect in the lacrimal drainage system. Okay. So there is some imbalance between the production of the tears and the drainage of the tears. So here the production is normal, but the drainage is not proper. Okay, so what are the causes? There can be anatomical causes or functional causes. What are the anatomical causes? They can be blockage at every level of the lacrimal drainage system. They can be blockage of the punctum, they can be blockage of the canaliculi, or there can be blockage of the nasolacrimal duct. Anywhere there can be blockage which leads to improper drainage of the tears or improper excretion of the tears. What are the functional causes? Lacrimal pump failure due to some anatomical defects like weakness of the orbicularis and laxity of the orbicularis oculi muscle. Okay, so it can be anatomical or functional. Functional means there is lacrimal pump failure. Because there is failure of the pump function, they cannot be drained out properly. So what happens in this horizontal laxity or floppy lids? You can see in here down, there is no proper, there is laxity of the lower lid. This is the lower lid, there is laxity of the lower lid. When there is laxity of the lower lid, you have to blink so that this punctum will excrete the or drain the tears. Because of the laxity of the lower lid, the blinking mechanism is not properly done, so there will be improper drainage of the tears. Okay, so lower lid entropion means inward turning of the lower lid with orbicularis oculi overriding. Then also because the punctum is inverted inside towards the conjunctiva, if there is entropion, the punctum will be turned inside. So because there is anatomical disturbance in the position of the punctum, these the tears will not get drained. Lower lid ectropion with ineffective orbicularis oculi. If there is ectropion also, because the position of the punctum is normal, it is turned outward, the drainage of the tears is not proper. Loss of skin or orbicularis or some laxity of the orbicularis oculi can also cause epiphora. So what are the punctal causes? Congenital agenesis or imperforate. It can be punctal agenesis. There can be, you can see here, there is no punctum at all. There is punctal agenesis. Because there is no punctum, the tears should drain through the punctum. Because there is no punctum, there will be epiphora. And acquired causes, occlusion of the punctum, it can be occluded, or any infection of the punctum or irradiation of the punctum can be seen. And some systemic conditions like pemphigoid, Stevens-Johnson syndrome and burns can lead to abnormal punctal position or abnormal drainage through the punctum because of abnormality in the punctum. Sometimes lid tumors can also cause malposition of the punctum, which leads to epiphora. So malposition, medical displacement and medical ectropion. So that is all about punctal. And coming to next part of the lacrimal drainage system is the canaliculi. So canaliculi, it can be congenital absence or fistula. Coming to acquired, it can be intrinsic or extrinsic. Intrinsic canaliculitis, that is infection of the canaliculi. Trauma to the canalicula, post-radiation trauma or post-radiation trauma or direct trauma. Sorry for the mistake here. That any trauma can lead to canalicular abnormality. Sometimes tumors can also lead to compress the canaliculi. They will close the lumen in the canaliculi because of the compression. That can lead to abnormal drainage of the tears. Extrinsic, sometimes compression of the tumors from the adjacent structures. It will compress the canaliculi further leading to epiphora. Next comes the lacrimal sac. First is the punctum, next canaliculi, then comes the lacrimal sac. So any sac inflammation, perilacrimal fibrosis, if there is fibrosis of the lacrimal sac, there will be no function of the lacrimal muscle. That leads to defective drainage of the tears. Any tracheolith, any stones, any sac tumors, which is very rare in pediatric age group, these can lead to lacrimal sac abnormalities. Surrounding tumors, which will press the lacrimal sac or the drainage pathway, which leads to epiphora. Now coming to the nasolacrimal duct occlusion, the final one, this can be congenital or acquired. Congenital nasolacrimal duct obstruction is seen, it is very commonly seen. Delayed opening of the Hasner's valve, I think you know the anatomy of the lacrimal apparatus. Craniofacial, any anomalies, abnormal craniofacial disfigurement can lead to nasolacrimal duct obstruction and agenesis of the nasolacrimal duct. Okay, so acquired, it can be primary obstruction because of some infection or something like that, or it can be secondary obstruction, maybe due to trauma or any tumors. So some nasal conditions can lead to nasolacrimal duct occlusion, or some nasal conditions can lead to even epiphora. There is severe deviated nasal septum. Severe DNS can also lead to epiphora, and terminate hypertrophy also leads to epiphora. So excessive tear production. I told you that is if there is defect in the drainage, then it is called as epiphora. If there is defect in the production of the tears, that is if there is abnormal excessive production of the tears, then it is called as lacrimation. So this lacrimation can be reflex lacrimation is just in response to various factors like the trichiasis. I told you in the previous classes what is trichiasis. When there is raised IOP, patient will be having congestion, pain or something like that, so that there will be epiphora. Any corneal diseases like corneal keratitis, any corneal ulcer, all these things because of corneal exposure, this can lead to, sorry, not epiphora, sorry, lacrimation. Severe entropion, because the lid will be continuously touching the lower corneal conjunctival corneal area. There will be excessive lacrimation, allergic conjunctivitis, drug irritation, environmental irritants. So all these things can lead to lacrimation, that is excessive tear production. Other causes, retinal surface diseases like chronic keratoconjunctivitis, Sika, conjunctivocalysis. What is conjunctivocalysis means? You know, during old age, somebody's mic is on. Please turn off your mic, please. I don't know who. Please turn off your mics. Okay, so what is conjunctivocalysis? During old age, you can see skin laxity. The patient will be having skin laxity. Okay, and there will be folds in the skin, especially in the face. In the same way, there will be conjunctival laxity in the old age. When the patient is becoming old, there will be conjunctival laxity and there will be folds in the conjunctiva. important. Then start doing the external examination followed by slit lamp examination. Then do syringing and probing. Further followed by that is the imaging. Okay, so history. So history, what history you are supposed to take? Whether the tearing is constant, whether it's continuous or intermittent. What are is there any periods of remission versus no remission? It is whether it is unilateral or bilateral. Any subjective discomfort is there, any discomfort, any foreign body sensation or any itching or something is there. Is any stenosis or any axillary puncta are there, or what if any discharge is protruding out from the puncta, you have to see the puncta. Next comes the slit lamp examination. We have to again cross check the abnormalities of the eyelids, any trichiasis is there or any entropion, ectropion is there. Position of the puncta, size and patency we have to see. We have to press on the lacrimal sac. Where the lacrimal sac is, it is on the medial side. You have to press on the lacrimal sac and you have to see any discharges protruding out from the or pouting out from the puncta we have to observe. Okay, so there is a test called as, which is a manual test, is called as a Roplas. What is Roplas? Regurgitation on pressure on lacrimal sac, lacrimal apparatus system. Roplas test is very important for every patient. You are supposed to do Roplas. For every patient, you can't go and do syringing daily. So Roplas is very important. So we have to see the patency of the punctum by pressing on the lacrimal sac. You have to see any discharge or blood or anything is coming out. We have to see. What is the sign of the coronal? Also, you have to see any little laxity. How is the blinking mechanism? We have to see. You have to see marginal tear strip. What is marginal tear strip? If there is, just 1 second, I'll show you what is marginal. You can see here a little bit of tear is there here, right? Water is there. This is marginal tear strip. This near the lower lid margin here, you can see just a line of water, that is the tear, that is called as marginal tear strip. We have to see whether it is there or it is excessive. Usually in epiphora it will be excessive, okay, because there is no drainage, proper drainage, so there will be excessive marginal tear strip. Tear film debris is there. We have to see any debris in the tear film. Any papillae follicle which are signs of allergies, any pinguicula, pterygium, conjunctiva callosis, anything is there we have to see. Any ocular cicatricial pemphigoid we have to observe. Now following that slit lamp examination, we have to go with the nasal examination. I told you previously that the DNS is one of the most common causes of epiphora. We have to see any anatomic abnormalities, any hypertrophy, any nasal polyp, deviated septums and atrophic rhinitis. So this is all the examination we have to do prior to going with diagnostic tests. Now coming to tests, we have to do some anatomical tests which will see where the obstruction is, whether it is near the puncta or canaliculae, or whether it is near the lacrimal sac, or whether it is near the nasolacrimal duct. Where the obstruction is, we can know by doing this test. First one is syringing, second one is probing, third one is dactyocystography, fourth one is CTR, MRI, which is the last sort of investigation. So these are all the anatomical tests, and functional tests. We have to assess functioning of the lacrimal apparatus under physiologic conditions, performed only when there is no evidence of any anatomical abnormality. Okay, so for this what we have to do? We have to see fluorescein dye appearance test. Jones dye test 1 and scintigraphy we have to do. Okay, so what is dye appearance test? Sorry, dye disappearance test. What we will do? You can, this is most commonly we see in the children in whom lateral irritation is impossible without deep sedation. So for every patient, babies, small babies, we can't go and do syringing, right? So because syringing is impossible, we have to go under general anesthesia. We will do dye disappearance test in children. Okay, what we will do, you know what is fluorescein dye, right? We just put 2 drops of 2% fluorescein dye, yes, sorry, fluorescein dye into the conjunctiva, in the lower conjunctiva, without touching the cornea. Only on the conjunctiva we have to touch in both the eyes, and we have to examine after 5 minutes. Normally what happens, very little or no dye is present, because the dye along with the tears which are produced, the tear will wash away the dye through the puncta. Okay, so after 5 minutes usually there will be no dye, but sometimes little bit of dye is okay. But if there is prolonged retention of this dye, then we can say that because the tear production is normal, the dye is not being drained along with the tears, we can say that there is inadequate drainage of the tears in that particular baby. Okay, so if the dye doesn't disappear, there is some problem with the lacrimal system. You can see in this picture, the patient is having here, you can see this is all crust. Because of discharge, the patient is having all these crusts. Okay, you can see this yellowish tinge, greenish yellow tinge. This is all fluorescent dye, because there is no proper drainage. This eye you can see it is cleared, but here you can see there is still dye is there. Okay, so because there is improper drainage of the tears in this eye, the patient is having fluorescent stained remnants in this eye. Okay, so how do you grade? 0, no fluorescence in the conjunctival sac. Grade 1, thin fluorescing margin tear drop persists. 2, more fluorescent persists between 1 to 3 grades. 3, wide brightly fluorescent tear strip is present. 0 and 1 are considered normal. 2 and 3 they are abnormal. Next one is Jones dye test. Jones 1 test or primary dye test. Differences, this one differentiates between partial obstruction and hypersecretion of tears. You have to know whether there is hypersecretion of tears, that is lacrimation, because of that the patient is having watering, or any drainage problem is there, that is any obstruction in the lacrimal sac is there. To differentiate these two, we have to go with Jones dye test. Okay, in this also the same thing, fluorescein 2% drops is instilled into the conjunctiva. We have to wait for 5 minutes, and a cotton tipped applicator inserted under the inferior turbinate in the nose. What is positive? Detection of fluorescein from the nose means patency of the system. Negative, no dye detected means either a partial or absolute obstruction or failure of the lacrimal pump can be there. So because when we keep a fluorescein dye in the eye and you keep a cotton bud or some cotton tipped applicator into the nose, because if there is a normal drainage of the tears, the fluorescein along with the tears will drain into the nose, so that there will be staining of the bud. It indicates that the drainage is normal. And because the drainage is normal, the dye has come into the nose and the cotton tip had become fluorescent. If there is fluorescent stain on the cotton tip. If there is no dye on the cotton tip, then we have to assume that some problem is there with the drainage system. Either it can be some obstruction which is anatomical, or it can be some lacrimal pump failure which is functional. Okay, so Jones dye is to see whether there is any obstruction or because of lacrimation. Okay, so here you can see in this there is a fluorescent strip. After this is the cotton bud. After sometime the fluorescent dye has stained the cotton tip. That is positive. There is no obstruction anywhere here. But here you can see here a black mark is there. Okay, so this is cannuli. Here you can see a black mark is there. This is obstruction. Because there is obstruction, the fluorescein dye didn't pass in this this is the lacrimal sac and the nasolacrimal duct. There is no passage of the fluorescein in this lacrimal system, and the cotton tip is not stained with fluorescein. So this is negative. This negative part is abnormal. Okay. So there is another test, Jones 2 test or secondary dye test. Always after doing Jones 1, you have to go with Jones 2. The residual fluorescence is flushed from the conjunctival sac following a negative Jones 1 test. If there is only negative in the Jones 1 test, then only we have to go with Jones 2 test. If the Jones 1 test is positive, no need to do Jones 2 test. Okay. So clear saline is placed into the inferior cannuliculus using syringe of cannula. Irrigant is retrieved from the nasal cavity. Here you can see, just 1 second. So what is positive? Recovery of dye-stained saline from the nose means a partial obstruction is there. Recovery of unstained saline through the nose means total obstruction of the upper drainage system or a defective lacrimal system. So what this stains, you can see here. Once you have done this, you have to do syringing. You have to do syringing. If initially I told you that there is a block here, right? If we do forceful syringing, the block may get dislodged, and or sometimes the partial block is there, then the remaining fluorescent will come and stain the cotton tip when you give a forceful syringing. If still after syringing also there is no drainage, you can see it is completely collapsed, right? This is completely collapsed. There is complete obstruction of the cannuliculi. So when there is complete obstruction, that cotton tip will not get stained. Okay, this is Jones 2 test. You can see here. This is the natural, this is the cotton, this is positive test, this is negative test. You can see here there is obstruction. This is Jones 1. There is no this thing. There is no staining of the cotton tip because the obstruction is near the nasolacrimal duct. If the obstruction is near the cannula also, there is no staining of the cotton tip. So there is this is the primary testing. This is the secondary testing. Here you can see we are giving a forceful saline injection. Then if there is partial obstruction, you can see it is coming and staining again because of the forceful syringing. If even after forceful syringing, if there is no staining of the cotton applicator, then it is secondary obstruction. You can see here there is a complete obstruction is there. Okay. Next comes the after Jones test. We have to go with probing. After topical anesthesia, curved lacrimal cannula on a saline filled syringe is gently inserted into the lower punctum and it is injected. So it comes either to a hard or soft stop. Okay. So what is hard stop? It comes to stop at a medial wall of sac through which lacrimal bone is felt. This indicates, you can see here, this is soft stop and this is hard stop. You can see here. When you're keeping the probe inside, this is the lacrimal bone and it is directly hitting the lacrimal bone. When it directly hits the lacrimal bone, then it is called as hard stop. This will indicate that there is a problem in the nasolacrimal duct, not in the cannuliculi or in the lacrimal sac. So when it directly hits the bone, then you can say that there is a problem in the nasolacrimal duct. The hard stop where we are touching is the lacrimal bone. Okay, if it is soft stop, it comes to stop at junction of common cannuliculi and the lacrimal sac. You can see here, this is the lacrimal sac. Because there is a block here, when we are hitting it, it will go and touch the lacrimal bone. But because of the cannuliculi, because the cannuliculi is there here, you will have a soft stop. So if there is soft stop, you can say this is the cannuliculi and this is the lacrimal sac. There is block between the cannuliculi and the sac. Then it becomes the soft stop. If it is a hard stop, the obstruction is in the nasolacrimal duct. Next comes the syringing. So how do we do that? After the installation of topical drops, the lower punctum is dilated with the probe. That is, we have to make the whole of the punctum a little bit bigger with a probe. Okay, the irrigating cannula is placed into the cannulicular system to prevent cannulicular kinking and difficulty. The advancing of the irrigating cannula, lateral traction of the lower lid should be done. So you have to follow the anatomical position of the cannulicula and you have to inject the syringe inside. along with the probing cannula. Now clear saline is injected and the results are noted. You can see here. So this is the cannula. You can see there is a small bend here. This is called as lacrimal cannula. Okay. So from here we come like this. Okay, we flow like this. You can see this. This is the canaliculi. Okay, and this is the lacrimal sac. You can see here. You can see a white place like this here. White thing. So there is complete canalicular obstruction here. So after reaching here, it is difficult for the irrigating fluid to go inside. Here, because it is irrigating fluid is going inside, it is coming back here only in the same punctum. You are injecting from the lower punctum and the fluid is coming again from the same punctum, that is the lower punctum. If the fluid you are injecting inside is regurgitating from the same punctum, then you can say that the same canalicular block is there in the same site. Okay, so here there is canalicular block. Imagine here there is canalicular block. The fluid can't go further, so it will regurgitate here only. So what is this? What is this? This is common canaliculus, right? This is upper, this is lower, and this is common canaliculus. If there is block in this common canaliculus and you are injecting fluid from this lower canaliculi, then it will go like this because the block is there here. It can't go downwards. Okay, it will start regurgitating from the upper canaliculus. If the fluid is regurgitating from the opposite canaliculus, then we can say that the block is in the common canaliculus. Because here there is no block, you can see here in this picture. We are injecting fluid from the lower canaliculus. You can see white block here. The fluid will be regurgitating from the upper canaliculus. Okay, so because it is block in the common canaliculi, it will regurgitate from the upper. If it is regurgitating from the same canaliculus, then it is the same canalicular block. Sorry. And if you can see complete nasolacrimal duct, the cannula is easily advanced to the medial wall. You have gone still inside. Then if you feel a heart stop, okay, and the regurgitation comes from the opposite punctum, then you can say that there is some problem in the nasolacrimal duct or near the junction between the common canaliculus and the lacrimal sac. Okay. Sorry, nasolacrimal duct is the heart stop. Okay, you can see inferiorly somewhere here nasolacrimal duct there is block. You can see here heart stop and regurgitation of the fluid from the opposite punctum. Okay, you can see here partial lacrimal drainage system, and the irrigating fluid will pass into the this thing. If there is patent lacrimal system, the irrigating fluid will pass into the nasolacrimal duct and the patient can see that. Feel that. Okay, so now coming to imaging techniques, contrast dacryocystography. So the technique, plastic catheters are placed into one cannucula in both eye. 1 ml lipodol is simultaneously injected through both the catheters. So what is the view we prefer in this? That is the Waters view. But the radiographs will be taken in the Waters view. 5 minutes later, an erect oblique film is also taken. At the site of obstruction is usually evident. Diverticuli, filling defects due to stones and strictures can also be diagnosed in this contrast dacryocystography. You can see here, this is the contrast dacryocystography. Okay. So next one is lacrimal scintillography. It is used to assess the lacrimal system in the physiological conditions. Technetium-19 is delivered by the micropipette to the inferior conjunctival sac. The tracer is imaged using cameras which are gamma cameras. You can see this is about scintillography. You can see here obstructions. Okay. Next one is CT MRI. The last results I told you. Any epiphora following trauma with nasolacrimal duct obstruction, we can see that there can be orbital rim fracture. Okay. Or infant with cystic mass at median canaliculus, you can see amniocele versus meningocele. You can even suspect some malignancies or secondaries. Next one is lacrimal endoscopy. 1 mm diameter rigid endoscope or fiber optic flexible endoscopes were inserted through the puncti and canalicula to inspect the lining mucosa of the lacrimal system, and you can investigate for DCR and any fistulas. So this is all about lacrimal evaluation of epiphora. I told you first only what is the difference between lacrimation and epiphora, right? So what is lacrimation and what is epiphora? Okay, do you have any doubts? If you have any doubts, you can just ask. Any doubts?